got the injector harness adapters, and it might seem kind of silly, but I'm actually going to wring out each one to make sure that it has continuity. Because I don't want to get it on the car and have to try to figure out why the car is not running right because one of these aren't connected for whatever reason. They crimped it on the insulation, or it's pulled out, or whatever. So just doing a quick test. So I cut some 1/4-inch loom for these adapters. Not because I'm worried about shorts so much as I want to keep the heat off this wire. That might be a little too long. I'll take a little trim off that one. Wire just seems to get brittle under the hood, you know? So that's a little better. That still seems too long. That's fine. I'm just going to take a little piece of tape. Working on some electrical, and my fuse was pretty loose inside this fuse block. Not a whole lot of videos out there on how to even take this block away from that mount right there. So I'm gonna give you a look at it. You can see these tabs. That's what locked it in right there, those tabs on all 4 corners. You're gonna have to get something on all 4 corners, push in, and work it out. And once it comes out, the real fun begins. Unless you're really small and can fit back here in the trunk. I'm working from the side here, and it's really a pain. I'm pretty much upside down. But to try to get these connections, terminals, out of this block, you first have to remove this, which you think, okay, great. So let me tell you how these are being held in. See that open square right there? See, on this side there's no opening. That side there's a square opening. Inside this block, I know you're not going to be able to see it, but inside this block, on the side that has that square, there's a plastic tab that's being pushed into that square, and that keeps it from moving out. You have to put something in there to pull that tab out of there, and the tabs are in every single one of these holes. It's just a little plastic tab that drops into that little square hole, keeps it from moving out. You can barely see it when you're in there. So I used a few of these. These are cheap little keys and things. Really cheap. I mean, basically junk. These ones might do okay, but these ones are really thin. But I was able to put 2 of these in, 3 of them. One of them I think isn't working very well. It's not holding the tab in. So I was able to push it out of the way while putting these 2 in between that plastic tab and the terminal, and it spread the tab out, and then I grabbed the back where the wire was and I pulled it out. And that's how I was able to pull this out of there. So I just needed to, I don't know if I damaged him testing it, but the fuse was really loose in there. So I just spread that back out so the fuse will be held in nicely. I'm going to put it back in there and then put it back on the post. Well, I didn't want to waste all your guys' time watching me try to figure out my fuel pump control module and what I was going to do with it. As far as, I tried Lingenfelter's their instructions for their pump, and it was not doing what I knew it should be doing. I don't know why. The green and white wire was not tripping my relay. There wasn't any voltage on it at all, which I don't quite understand unless my fuel pump relay, I don't know, just something's not right. Anyway, what I did find was 12 volts ignition on the small pink wire here. Now, I'm always a little concerned because, you know, when you go to crank a car, yeah, you got 12 volts with key on and nothing with key off. But a lot of times, these 12 volt wires turn off when the starter cranks. Well, if that's operating my fuel pump relay, my fuel pumps won't be pumping fuel at startup and pressure will go to 0. That's not good. So I did check it, and it has a constant 12 volts even cranking. And so I just kind of hot wired it up here, and yeah, car started. This cover is off along with this white one. It just pries off. If you pry on each end, it'll come off. And so something I didn't discuss earlier was how to get this piece off of here without breaking it. So this is a position that it's normally in. You can cut the tie strap right here, and then what you want to do is you just want to slide this way, and then it'll lift off. Just like that. It's a little bit different. I just ran this wire here in this loom. It's just a 2-wire. It's going to go across my positive and negative for my secondary. So when my secondary pump comes on, that little gauge right there, yeah, I actually had that for my booster pump so I can see what voltage my booster pump was putting out. I decided to leave the gauge there and use it to show when my secondary pump's coming on. If I don't see my secondary pump, or all of a sudden I lose voltage there, I know I'm going to run lean. So this wire I got from the trunk goes to the hob switch. That's routed, well, I showed you in the other video where it was routed, all along the edge of the car. Passes through the air box, and it's now in the trunk. So what I'm having to do is splice it in with the gray wire from my relay. This is the ground side of my relay trigger. This isn't the high current side. So I'm going to put one end here and the black one on the other end of the gray, and then the gray goes to ground. And that way when the hob switch sees 5 pounds of boost, it will ground the trigger for this relay and make it activate, engaging the second pump. Another quick update here. We got the loom wrapped up, tie strapped, and brought it underneath the amplifier there. One of the negative and then the positive side to these automatic reset breakers going around to the positive side. All those white tabs there were there from the BAP, so I just utilized them for this. Same with the holes here that this mounted in. I don't really like these. but the 4Innovations FC3 controller wasn't available for like 6 weeks. I didn't want to wait 6 weeks to finish the project, and this was what I was going to do originally. I just kind of wish I would have picked the FC3 first. It would have made wiring a little bit easier, but that's okay. It's ugly, but nobody's going to see it. I'm going to have to come up with some kind of protection for this, because this is positive, and of course that's negative right there, so not too far to make a short, but I'll come up with something to cover it, and then we'll be good in here, I think. This pink and gray wire here, these were the wires that ran the original fuel pump. The other two smaller wires that were on the white connector on the original are on the fuel level down here. This blue and white, which is the same colors that were on the connector, or similar. Anyway, these two wires here, I'm just going to cover them with heat shrink. I'm not going to cut them off or anything. I never know when I might want them. But those wires go up here to the fuel pump control module, and they're tied in with the connector. The tan wires are CAN bus data, and the pink with white wire is from the fuse box over there that we were messing with earlier, and that is on 100% of the time. Doesn't matter what the key's doing. The black wire is ground, and this green with white is the fuel pump relay control. So there's a number of ways you could wire this to get it to work. I did it more of a simple way. I'm going to try to be able to use the fuel pressure sensor under the car, but I may have to, and I think I do, tie into the fuel pump control module. Now, some people use the green with white to trigger their relays. You know, I use this pink wire here, which is on even when cranking, and that seemed to work fine for me. So that triggers both relays to close. This pink wire, it's connected to my yellow ones, which go to my relay boxes back there. I'll show you that all in a schematic. I'll draw it up. But some guys will use this green and white wire, and they may even power their primary pump with these down here. You know, of course, you can flash your module to be on, 99% pulse width or whatever now. HP Tuners allows you to do that now. I messed with that a little bit, and I could see it was going to be a headache. And so I just wired it up more simple way. I just decided to redo the ground here and dedicate it all the way to the battery. So I routed it up through, and it's going to go over to the battery along with the gray ground for the relay trigger. I feel a lot more confident power direct to the battery than relying on some crummy ground. If that ground goes out, I lose my fuel pumps. Alright, so we got the wiring done with the exception of that little mess, which doesn't really matter for what I'm going to do. I'm going to test to see if both pumps come on. So right now, you can see that little gauge up there. You can hear the one pump. I came over to here to the Hobb switch, and I'm going to short out that pin. Oh yeah. I hear the second pump going. So what that did was that just shorted these two pins out as if the Hobb switch was activating under 5 pounds boost. Another way I can do it is to cut the line and put a little bit of pressure from my compressor here I will do that if I find that this thing doesn't go if I don't see that voltage at that gauge on the dash when I know I'm in 5 pounds. We'll test this, but I'm going to assume that works for now since I've already got it plumbed. Also, the single fuel pump is more than enough fuel to carry me over into 5 pounds boost, no problem. So I'm not worried about running lean or anything. So just to recap, these 2 wires are the red wires from the Mr. Gasket relays. These 2 grounds, the big black ground here goes to the negative of the fuel pumps. This other ground here are the 2 gray wires from the relays. That's the ground side for the trigger side of the relay. And then the yellow and the blue jump across. So the yellow wires come from over there and tie into my pink one right here, which is ignition on only when the key is on. And the blue wires, which are the high power output of the relays, go into the positive on each pump. And that's really all there is to it. So this is K38 chassis control module, which is a fuel pump control module. In this particular 2014 service manual, it's K38, not K27, but the pages read exactly the same. So here are the other colors. And what they mean. The pink with white, this is the number 1 pin right here. If the cover's off, this one's the number 1. And then there's 3 rows. Top left is number 2. So just giving you a reference from this side what's going on. Something else you want to know, blue with yellow stripe, that works the MPP exhaust or has something to do with it. I think it's for the part of the control. I'd have to look it up in the schematic. But if you completely unplug this, you might lose the NPP capability. I'm not completely sure. So if you do, and you've disconnected this, that might be why. It's because that wire is not there anymore. Okay, that beeping is driving me nuts. You'll see it's 11.32 volts. Some of it not being 12 is the lousy ground. As you can see, I'm getting voltage there. So if you think I would be able to take the trigger wires and trigger the pump to come on, but it's not doing it. So this cannot carry enough current apparently to trip my relays, because these are the trip wires. Everything else is wired up. So the pink wire works, but the green and white doesn't, at least not on this setup. Now if you have the liver noise setup, it's got a completely different relay, you know, who knows. But this green and white is not going to work for my setup. So I got to go to that pink. So I put all the pins back. I got these 2 tan with black stripe backwards. I used the long one to go furthest away, and well, that wasn't the case. So what happened was anytime this was connected, the car's ECM would not allow the car to start. I mean, at all. Regardless, the starter wouldn't even turn over. It was giving me all kinds of codes, service steering, park assist not available. I thought I blew up the ECM. So I ended up disconnecting the battery, disconnecting the fuse, pulling this out, connecting it all back up, and I noticed that the car was fine if I had this completely unplugged. So that told me that something with this was wrong. So I swapped these black and tan around, which are the positive for the communications, and I got a P0230, which is primary fuel pump circuit, or primary fuel circuit. Well, I've got this disconnected. So I went into the tune, and you go in. This is the scanner. But if you actually go into the tune, you can turn it off. It's under engine diagnostics, under DTCs, and it was P0230. Right there, fuel pump primary circuit. And you change it, you uncheck it, and you change it to no error reporting in the drop down. You save it and you flash it to the ECM. So what happens is that tells the ECM that everything's fine, I guess, and allows the fuel pump control module to send fuel pressure. So now I'm able to get fuel pressure on my scanner from the sensor that's under the car. And then you can put that tie strap back if you want, which I'm going to. So I'm going to heat shrink these, connect this 5-volt ignition back up to these, wire it all in, loom it, and then get to work on HP tuners, turning off all the check engine lights that this thing's producing. And as long as I got fuel pressure reporting, that's the only reason I'm keeping this fuel pump control module. Has nothing to do with my pumps actually running, because this has nothing to do with the fuel pump control module. This just comes from the fuse box up front. Says I'm getting between 56 and 58 psi. It's fluctuating, probably because it's idling. I got 58 at the gauge. All that looks good. And it looks a little lean, which makes sense because I haven't tuned it. Probably gets a little more air. Whew. Gassing me out. Well, this has been a long project. How many parts is this? 16? Lots of videos I made. Lots of pulling my hair out when I wasn't rolling on camera. It's pretty much done. I'm going to put the interior back together. And everything looks good. I don't have any leaks. The fuel pump's making a little bit of a strange sound, like it's pushing air through it. And I would think that if I'm picking up air, I would also be leaking, because, well, pretty much all the lines are under pressure. So it may just be normal. I'm going to go ahead and put some more fuel in the tank. Well, hey, thanks everybody for following me along on my journey on my fuel upgrade. Hope you guys got something out of it and enjoy it. If you like my videos, subscribe and like and share my videos. Check me out on Instagram. I post a lot of stuff there, sometimes months before my videos on YouTube. I'm at fastenough_ZL1. All right, till next time, guys.